She was the only person I trusted with my fears about him. The late-night fights, the hollow silences, the way he'd been slipping away. I leaned on her, confided in her, begged her to help me hold him together. Instead, she took him, and smiled while doing it. I spiraled. Then I started plotting. There's this photo I used to keep in a cracked silver frame on my nightstand. The four of us, me, Aaron, Marissa and her boyfriend at the time, sun-drunk and grinning at a lake house we'd rented together. I remember that weekend like it was scripted for perfection, Marissa in oversized sunglasses, laughing at one of Aaron's terrible jokes, my head on his shoulder, the sun turning everything gold. I threw that photo out 3 months ago, not because of what it showed, but because of what it didn't. You never expect betrayal to come wrapped in comfort. Marissa was. The kind of friend who knew my coffee order better than I did. She knew when I was PMSing before I did. She remembered my passwords, my allergies, the name of the barista who gave me free croissants when I was broke and heartbroken after a job loss. She was more than a best friend, she was. The archive of my life. And Aaron? God, back then I thought I'd won the lottery with him. He had that sleepy kind of charm, like he was always half listening but caught everything anyway. He wasn't loud or flashy, but when he looked at you, it was like you were the only static-free channel in a world of noise. He'd be my calm, or maybe just the eye of a storm I hadn't seen forming. Marissa loved him too, but not in the way you're thinking, or maybe exactly in the way you're thinking. But back then, I didn't even let the idea form. She was my person, the one I called during. My first real fight with Aaron, the one where I threw my engagement ring across the kitchen because I felt invisible and he just kept watching football like I hadn't spoken. I cried into the phone, breathless and angry, and Marissa said, "Elle, that man doesn't deserve your tears." She never told me to stay. She never told me to go. She just listened, took notes, let me bleed emotions into her voicemail, and never once complained. When Aaron and I got married, I made her my maid of honor. She cried during her speech, drunk and glittery-eyed, and said, "I've never believed in love the way I believe in yours." Looking back, I should have noticed her voice cracked on the word yours. We lived close 3 blocks apart in the same neighborhood where you could walk your dog and bump into 5 people who all knew your weekend plans. I didn't mind. It felt safe, familiar. Even when Aaron and I had those quiet, simmering fights, the kind that don't scream but boil, I always had Marissa. I leaned on her. Too much. I didn't realize I had made her the emergency exit from my own marriage. Aaron started working later. At first, it was just the occasional late meeting or business dinner. I didn't ask too many questions. I was raised by a woman who taught me that trust is the price you pay to be loved. So I paid it with silence and smiling dinners and cold sheets. I told Marissa, "Every detail. I think he's pulling away," I said once, in her kitchen while she chopped shallots like a damn chef. Like, I can feel him shrinking. She didn't even pause. Just reached into her cabinet, poured 2 glasses of rosé and handed me one. "Men don't shrink," she said. "They slither." I laughed. God help me, I laughed. I mistook poison for poetry. It got worse after that. The distance, the way Aaron started forgetting things, my work events, our anniversary dinner, the brand of toothpaste we always used. I brought it up to Marissa one night and she just nodded, too quickly, too knowingly. "Elle," she said, "some people outgrow each other. You haven't done anything wrong." She never said he had. That silence, it haunts me now. Then came the night I came home early from a work conference. A day earlier than planned. I didn't tell either of them. I just wanted to surprise Aaron. I was excited. I even bought one of those ridiculous lingerie sets, lace and ribbons, and the kind of hope you only wear when you're trying to glue a thing back together. The house was empty. Aaron's car was gone. His toothbrush too. I called Marissa. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey babe," she said, like nothing was wrong. "Aren't you supposed to be in Chicago?" My throat went dry. "Came back early. Aaron's not home." Pause. Just a second too long. "Maybe he's out getting groceries. Want me to come over?" And she did. She came over with a bottle of wine and Thai food and her same old comforting smile. We sat in the living room. I remember thinking her perfume smelled like the one I used to wear in college. Vanilla and violets. I didn't say anything. I didn't notice the way her eyes darted toward my bedroom door when she thought I wasn't looking. That night, I cried into her shoulder. She held me. I thought that meant something, maybe it still does, because when I think back to that night when my world was beginning to split down the middle, it wasn't Aaron's absence that hurt the most. It was Marissa's presence, how she made me feel safe while everything was starting to fall apart. How she sat beside me on the couch that Aaron and I picked out together, knowing what she knew, doing what she was doing. Sometimes I wonder what she was thinking right then. Did she feel guilty? Powerful? Was she worried I'd find out? Or was she already erasing me from the picture? There's another memory weeks before the full truth came out when she saw me crying in the bathroom at a friend's party. She pulled me into a stall and said, "You deserve to be adored, Elle, not just tolerated." I nodded. I remember nodding like she was the only voice that mattered. She was right. I just didn't realize the adoration she meant wasn't for me. It was for him. It's strange how the person you trust the most can look into your eyes and mirror your pain, all while building a life out of the pieces they've stolen from you. I used to think betrayal felt like a slap, something sudden, something loud. But it's not. It's slow, like a gas leak you don't smell until you're already half dead on the floor. And Marissa, she didn't light the match. She was the gas. There's a certain type of silence that comes after a scream. I wasn't screaming out loud that night. But my insides, they were on fire, melting, howling in a pitch that only my bones could hear. It started with a text, just a stupid, casual, too careless text. Aaron had been acting weird for weeks, months really. The late nights, the sudden closeness of his phone always flipped over, always in his pocket even when he was just going to the kitchen. I thought I was being paranoid, insecure, overreacting. That's what Marissa told me anyway. "Elle, you're exhausted," she'd said. "You're not sleeping and he's probably just stressed. Don't spiral." But spiraling is what my gut did best, and that night, my gut was right. It was around 11:45 p.m. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through Instagram with one hand and sipping lukewarm chamomile tea with the other. Aaron was in the shower. I remember because I could hear the water running, and there was that eerie steam hiss sound coming from the hallway. His phone lit up on the coffee table. I wouldn't have looked if it buzzed just once, but it buzzed twice, then 3 times. Fast, urgent, a name popped up on the screen. Marissa. My stomach dropped. I didn't mean to read it. I didn't even mean to touch it, but I did. I picked it up, swiped, and there it was. Marissa, last night was perfect. Same time tomorrow? I stared at it like it would change if I looked long enough. Like maybe last night meant something else. Like maybe the kiss emoji was a joke. Like maybe Marissa had never wrapped her legs around my husband while I was sleeping in this exact living room 12 feet away, dreaming about IVF treatments and vacation brochures. But the truth doesn't wait for permission to land. Aaron walked out of the shower. Minutes later, hair damp, wearing the t-shirt I'd bought him last Christmas, he smiled like nothing had happened. I held up the phone. "What the fuck is this?" His smile froze. His eyes flicked from the phone to me, then back. There was a pause. A full 5 seconds. Then came the lie. "It's not what you think." God, that line. That cliched, pathetic line that men use when they've been caught, but still think they're smarter than you. I wanted to punch through him, not out of rage but disbelief. I had spent years defending this man, fighting for him, forgiving him, and this? This was how he repaid me? I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I stood up slowly, like my joints were made of splinters, and walked into the bedroom. I shut the door, locked it, slid down to the carpet like a marionette with its strings cut. I didn't sleep. By sunrise, he was gone. I didn't see him again for 3 days. Marissa didn't text, didn't call. Nothing. She disappeared from my life like a shadow under floodlight. I called her once, just once, straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I wanted to believe there was an explanation, that she'd tell me it was a misunderstanding, a cruel prank, a hacked phone, anything but what I was starting to feel settle into my marrow. But she said nothing, and somehow that said everything. The next week blurred into itself. I worked from home, but nothing got done. I forgot to eat. My therapist, yes, I had. One kept saying, "Name your feelings," like I had the vocabulary to describe this kind of hurt. There wasn't a word. Betrayal felt too soft. Violation came close. But it still didn't touch the part of me that felt dismembered by someone I trusted with my life. I tried talking to our mutual friends, the ones who knew all 3 of us. Me, Aaron, Marissa. Most of them went quiet. Some said things like, "Wow, that's complicated," or "Maybe it's not what it looks like." But the worst were the ones who said nothing, the ones who stopped replying to texts, who unfollowed me the next week. People picked sides in silence too. I spiraled, fully, completely. I stopped showering. I wore the same hoodie 3 days in a row. I watched old videos of the 3 of us at dinner parties, birthday brunches, random nights in with wine and takeout. I watched how Aaron looked at her when I wasn't paying attention, how she leaned into his jokes, laughed just a second too long, how she wore lipstick that matched mine on nights she didn't feel like dressing up. The hardest part was how invisible I felt, like I'd been a placeholder in my own life. One day, I saw it, the post that broke me. Marissa. In a restaurant I recognized, hair curled just the way Aaron used to like it, and there, next to her, barely in frame, was Aaron's hand. His watch. She'd tagged the location. The caption said, "New beginnings." And she was smiling like I'd never existed. Like the tears I cried into her shirt, the hours I spent consoling her after every failed date, the literal time I lent her rent money because she was struggling meant nothing. That was the moment I stopped being sad. I started getting angry. I started remembering. How many times had I invited her into our home? How many times have I told her things I hadn't even told Aaron? She knew about our rough patches. She knew about our sex life or lack thereof. She knew every fear I had, every insecurity I ever whispered while buzzed off wine and loneliness. She used it all like ammunition, and I gave her the bullets. There's this one memory I can't shake. A night maybe 2 months before everything blew up. Aaron and I had just fought about something stupid, dishes maybe, or bills. I'd called Marissa, and she came over. She curled up on the couch beside me and said, "You know, if I ever found a man like Aaron, I'd never let him go." I laughed. She didn't. She just kept looking at me. And now, when I replay that moment in my head, I realize she wasn't envying me. She was warning me. When you lose a husband, you mourn a future. When you lose your best friend to that husband, you mourn everything. Your history, your laughter, your safe place. I used to think betrayal was a moment. Now I know it's a slow death, an erosion of boundaries until someone walks into your life and sets fire to the home you built and smiles while doing it. And the worst part, they always blame you for handing them the matches. Grief has stages. I got stuck between rage and obsession. The crying stopped after a while. You can't cry forever. Eventually, your body just stops responding. You sit still, you go cold, and your heart starts sharpening itself into something dangerous. That's where I lived for weeks, maybe months. Time got blurry after Marissa and Aaron publicly made it official. She changed her relationship status on Facebook. He followed suit. They didn't hide anymore. They smiled in pictures, with captions like, "Life works out the way it's meant to." I didn't comment. I didn't like. I didn't even block them. I watched. I watched them go to brunch at the cafe Aaron once told me was too basic for a real date. I watched them pose in front of the bookstore where Marissa and I used to spend hours in college, reading poetry out loud to each other. I watched them take my past and rebrand it like a startup. And I started documenting everything. At first, it was just a coping mechanism, a sick little notebook full of dates and captions and receipts. But then, something shifted. I started noticing patterns when they went to certain places, who they were with, how Aaron's company tagged him in posts that contradicted what he told people about work travel. I started building a profile, and I started researching, not about them, about betrayal, about revenge. Forums, subreddits, psychology blogs. I devoured everything. How to spot manipulation, how to dismantle narcissists, how to make someone wish they'd never touched your life. There's this quote I found burned into my memory now. Revenge is not about punishment. It's about reminding them they're not untouchable. That was the moment something inside me clicked. I wasn't interested in justice. I wanted disruption. I wanted her to wake up in sweat at 3 a.m., unsure if she'd been followed. I wanted him to second-guess every compliment, wondering if I was behind it. But most of all, I wanted them to feel unsafe in the perfect little world they stole from me. The plan didn't come to me all at once. It built slowly, like fog. First, I created a fake Instagram profile, just a faceless girl with an aesthetic feed. I followed Marissa, commented just enough to seem normal. She followed back in under 2 hours. Desperation always reveals itself online. Next, I mirrored her. Posted the same cafes, similar captions, vague spiritual quotes about growth and light. She liked almost every post, like she saw herself in me. Perfect. Then came the DMs. Friendly at first, then flirty. I didn't mention Aaron. I never had to. She brought him up. "Guys are complicated," she said. "I'm with someone now, but it's not always simple." That was my first confirmation. Things weren't perfect. They weren't simple. I started feeding her subtle jabs about self-worth, about toxic love, about women who steal partners, often fearing abandonment themselves. She laughed it off, then started asking me for advice. "You're such a light," she wrote once, "like you see people." I almost gagged. I said thank you. Then I started digging into Aaron. His LinkedIn showed a recent promotion. But the firm he worked for had strict personal conduct policies, especially for executives. I checked the employee handbook. Guess what? Office relationships weren't forbidden, but dishonesty in personal affairs that became public. Scandals, grounds for dismissal. I created a second fake account. This one male, corporate, anonymous. I DM'd the company's HR tip line with photos of Aaron and Marissa, screenshots of articles hinting at their affair timeline, and a message about a potential reputational concern. I got no reply. But a week later, Aaron scrubbed half his LinkedIn posts. That was enough. I was getting under their skin, but I wasn't done. I reached out to a reporter I knew from a college internship, told her I had a juicy story about 2 lovers, a betrayal, and a former best friend left to rot. She bit. I gave her everything, just not my name. I made sure the story couldn't be traced, but every detail was accurate, precise, damning. When the article dropped, it didn't name names, but anyone who knew us could read between the lines. A woman betrays her best friend by sleeping with her husband. The ex-wife disappears from the social scene. Months later, the happy couple post engagement photos in the same spot the ex-wife had always dreamed of being proposed to. The comments were brutal. "You guys sure this wasn't about L&M? LMAO. This is exactly what happened with Aaron and Marissa." Marissa went private the next day. Aaron deleted his account entirely, but still I wasn't finished because I still hadn't heard from them. No apologies, no explanations, no regret. And that silence, that's what made me escalate. I knew Marissa was working with a new wellness client, some big influencer brand doing retreats and life coaching packages. She posted a story about becoming their PR coordinator, so I dug. The brand prided itself on integrity and emotional transparency. That was their whole shtick. I created another anonymous tip. This one with screen recordings of Marissa's old posts, side by side with the article. A timeline of her lies. Hints that she might be exploiting her platform for clout while building a career off someone else's ruin. A week later, the company removed her from their story highlights. 2 days after that, her bio changed. No more PR coordinator title, no mention of the brand at all. And still, I wasn't done, because one morning, I got a text. No name, just a number I hadn't blocked yet. It was from Aaron. "Whatever you think you're doing is not going to work." I stared at it. Not a single word of apology, just a threat disguised as arrogance. I didn't reply. I posted a photo of myself instead, smiling, dressed up, drink in hand, captioned, "Karma doesn't knock, it lets itself in." She saw it. I know, because 10 minutes later, Marissa's sister DM'd me. Just a single line. "She's crying in the bathroom. Hope it was worth it." I didn't reply to her either, because it was worth it, and it wasn't over. I wasn't just dismantling their life, I was reminding them that I wasn't the girl they walked away from. I was the storm that followed. I used to be soft. I used to be the girl who gave second chances like candy, who said sorry even when I was the one bleeding, who believed people meant it when they said "I'd never hurt you." Not anymore. Pain rewires you. After Erin and Marissa, I became someone else. Or maybe I just stripped everything down until what was left was the real me. The version that didn't flinch, didn't explain, didn't apologize for making people uncomfortable. It started small. A haircut, a new wardrobe, things that seemed superficial but weren't. I didn't want to be recognizable. I didn't want to be the woman they'd broken. I wanted to be someone they wouldn't even see coming. I moved to a new apartment downtown, high up, minimalistic and white, cold almost, like a museum where nothing gets touched. That's what I needed, space, clean air, nothing sentimental. I even changed my name online, dropped my old email, made a new Instagram under a slightly altered version of my middle name. I kept the photos clean, no rants, no messy quotes, just cool, curated calm. People believed I'd moved on. That's how good I got at pretending. But beneath all that, serenity? I was building something. I wasn't just watching anymore, I was infiltrating. Marissa and Aaron had made their little life together, moved into a neighborhood I once circled in red Sharpie on our vision board. She'd started posting photos of their Sunday mornings, farmers, markets, their dog. The same one Aaron and I were supposed to adopt before he said we should wait. He never wanted a dog with me, just her. The difference was now I knew what to do with that information. I created a new identity. I called her Claire. Claire was warm but detached, stylish but understated, the kind of girl people trusted but never questioned. I made her a LinkedIn profile, gave her a background in branding, added mutual connections to Marissa's circle, and slowly Claire got accepted. "A follow here, a cute top, comment there." Claire and Marissa started talking. It didn't take long. Marissa always craved attention, craved mirrors. Claire became her mirror. She asked about wellness events, about Aaron, about navigating public judgment. Marissa lapped it up, poured her guilt into fake sisterhood. That's when I learned something interesting. Aaron had cheated on her too, a month ago. A girl from his gym. She'd forgiven him, of course, but the cracks had formed. And once I saw them, I knew exactly where to place pressure. The next time we talked, as Claire told her about a therapist who specialized in betrayal recovery, said she'd helped me uncover subconscious patterns of toxic friendship. I sent the link. It wasn't a real therapist. It was a burner site I'd built in 2 days. All it took was one click and I had her IP, her device ID, her location history. She'd visited Aaron's office 6 times in 2 weeks. Not for lunch, not for errands, but because she was watching him, because she didn't trust him anymore. That was the moment I knew I'd won. But I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollow, like I'd been fighting for the right to destroy something I didn't even want back. I thought about letting go, about closing the accounts, deleting the files, burning the notebooks I kept under my bed filled with transcripts and surveillance notes and photos. But then I got a DM from Aaron. He didn't know it was me, of course. He thought he was talking to Claire. He asked if I wanted to meet up sometime. Said he and his girlfriend were complicated. Said he needed clarity. I stared at that message for 20 minutes. My hands were shaking. He didn't recognize me, not even a little. He was so casual, so flirty, so ready to betray her again. And, just like that, the holo disappeared. I wasn't done. I set the meeting for Tuesday afternoon, a quiet bar with low lighting and strong drinks. I told him I'd be wearing red. I told him I was excited. He replied with a wink emoji, and I won't tell if you don't. I showed up early, not in red. I watched from across the street. Watched him walk in, sit at the bar, order something neat, check his phone, smirk. I took a picture, then I walked away. 2 days later, that picture showed up in Marissa's inbox from a private email. Subject line, still think he's different? She didn't reply. But she deleted every post with Aaron in it by the end of the week. 3 days later, she changed her profile picture to a quote, "You lose her when you think she's yours by default." That made me laugh, not because I believed she'd left him, but because I knew she hadn't. Not really. Girls like Marissa don't walk away from what they fought dirty to win. They cling harder. They cry quietly. They spiral. I knew because I used to be her. But not anymore. Now I was Claire. Now I was no one. Now I was everywhere. I'd become the ghost in their machine. And I was only getting started. You'd think revenge would feel like fire. That it would roar in your chest, blaze through your bloodstream, give you some cinematic moment of triumph where you look in the mirror and see someone victorious. That's not how it happens. Revenge is cold. Revenge is quiet. It's sitting alone in a dark room with a laptop, cataloguing someone's life piece by piece, planning not just how to hurt them, but how to make them hurt themselves. And the best part? They'll never even know it's you. I stopped feeling anything good after Aaron and Marissa got engaged. It was fast. Too fast. Less than a year after they blew up my marriage, and they were already posting diamond ring selfies with "he put a Aaron" on it and a best friend turned fiancé. They didn't even flinch at how tone deaf it was. But I guess you can't feel shame if you've convinced yourself you were the victim all along. They threw a party. Engagement-themed cocktails, white balloons, catered sushi. I watched it unfold online. There she was, Marissa in a white jumpsuit, laughing with my old friends. The same people who told me, "We're here for you no matter what," then vanished when things got uncomfortable. Aaron stood next to her, his arm possessive, his face smug. They toasted, they danced, and I sat in my apartment, lights off, screen glowing, fingers twitching with the kind of energy that has no name except vengeance. That night, I made a list. Every client Marissa had worked with in the past 12 months, every brand she tagged, every sponsorship she hinted at. I knew her online presence better than she did, because she curated it for strangers, but she built it on my back. The aesthetic, the captions, even the books she quoted in her posts. I'd introduced her to every single one. She'd carved out a career using a personality she stole from me. So I started there. Anonymous emails, tips, screenshots of DMs from her to Aaron while he and I were still married, leaked timelines, whispers about unethical collaborations, allegations about toxic PR tactics. I didn't even have to lie. The truth was damning enough. One by one, brands dropped her. Not publicly, of course. That would be messy. But I saw it in the silence, the untagged photos, the sudden lack of affiliate links. She stopped posting as often. And when she did, the comments weren't all heart eyes anymore. Some asked questions, some called her out, some said, "Funny how you promote healing after destroying someone else's life." It worked, and watching her unravel from a distance became my favorite ritual. I didn't stop there. I created burner accounts, plural, each with a different tone. One posed as a former client, angry, betrayed. One pretended to be a heartbroken follower who looked up to her until I found out the truth. And the third was the most dangerous. It posed as a young woman Aaron was texting on the side. I crafted the messages carefully. Flirty, casual, vague enough to be deniable, but specific enough to shake Marissa's already cracked trust. I sent her screenshots, not through email this time. I printed them, slipped them into a manila envelope, no return address, just her name. Dropped it off at her co-working space. Old school, personal, real. 3 days later, her Instagram vanished, just disappeared. No explanation, no goodbye, just gone. I knew I'd hit the target, but I didn't feel finished, because I hadn't heard her voice, hadn't seen the panic in her eyes, hadn't watched her break, so I planted a new seed. An opportunity, a job offer fake, of course, a startup looking for a PR manager, high-paying, fast-growing, exactly the kind of role she'd kill to land. I used one of my fake profiles, built a website, populated it with fake employees, real-sounding names, bought a domain, set up an email. I crafted the perfect pitch. Your story, your authenticity. We believe in second chances. We're inspired by how you turned your pain into purpose. She took the bait. Hook, line, and ego. She sent her resume, scheduled an interview, even posted a story that hinted at exciting things coming soon. And then, the night before the fake interview, I pulled the plug, took the site down, deleted the emails, blocked her number, gone. Just like that, a digital ghost town. I imagine her sitting there, makeup done, questions prepared, staring at a screen that wouldn't respond. I imagine her refreshing, panicking, realizing that someone was playing her, that someone was in her life, watching. And that's when it shifted again, because suddenly I wasn't satisfied. I was addicted. This wasn't about payback anymore. It was about power. For once, I was the one holding the strings. Not Aaron, not Marissa, me. I began planting seeds beyond them, reconnecting with people who had distanced themselves when everything fell apart. Not as myself, no, as someone new, polished, warm, intriguing. They didn't even recognize my voice. Or maybe they did and didn't want to admit it, and as they re-entered my orbit, they told me things. Who said what? Who believed what? Who knew about the affair before I did? Turns out, quite a few people had. One of them, Sarah, told me over drinks. Honestly, we all saw it coming. You were just too trusting. Too trusting. That stuck with me, like I was the idiot for not assuming my best friend would sleep with my husband, like not being paranoid made me naive. That night, I went home and deleted every photo I still had of the three of us. Not out of sadness, out of rage. I didn't want evidence that I had once loved them. They didn't deserve it, so I erased them, systematically, ruthlessly, like they had erased me. I thought I knew everything. I thought I had peeled back every lie, mapped every betrayal, drawn a clean line between villain and victim. But I was wrong, because the truth was messier, uglier, and it made me question the entire war I'd been fighting. It started on a Thursday. I was following Marissa not physically, not yet, just digitally, watching her patterns, her new job, her dwindling friends, the way she clung to curated positivity like it was armor. I noticed she'd started posting less, fewer selfies, more vague quotes. Sometimes the people who break you are the ones who swore they'd fix you. I rolled my eyes. Classic Marissa, always turning her destruction into poetry. But then something shifted. She posted a story one night, shaky video, clearly crying alone in her car. No sound, just mascara-streaked cheeks and trembling hands. It only stayed up for 5 minutes. I screen recorded it, of course. But what got me wasn't the tears. It was the words she typed over the video. I didn't steal him. I saved him. From her. My throat closed. I watched that sentence over and over again. Saved him? From me? That night I couldn't sleep, not because I believed her, but because deep down I didn't understand what she meant. And that scared me more than anything. So I did what I swore I wouldn't do. I followed her. In person. She had a standing Pilates class near the harbour. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 p.m. I'd seen it in her tagged posts. Always the same routine: class, smoothie bar, drive home. But that Thursday, she didn't go home. She sat in her car for over 40 minutes. I parked across the lot behind tinted glass, heart thudding louder than the engine. She wasn't on her phone. She wasn't crying. She was yelling into her Bluetooth. Her hands were slicing through the air, head thrown back, voice loud enough that I could just make out fragments. You said it was over. Don't gaslight me. I left her for you. My chest went still. She wasn't talking to me. She was talking to him. Aaron. I waited until she ended the call and slammed her fist into the steering wheel. Then she drove off. I followed. Her route wasn't toward their apartment. She pulled into a parking lot near the pier. Dim, quiet, deserted. She sat there for 10 more minutes. Then she screamed, like really screamed. Feral, animal. I watched, stunned, as she hit the dashboard, then curled into herself like a kicked dog. And suddenly, something inside me cracked. Not pity, not forgiveness, confusion. Because what the hell was I looking at? This wasn't the smug lipstick-wearing thief who'd toasted champagne over my grave. This was a woman unraveling because of him. And in that moment, something shifted in me. I went home and did something I hadn't done in months. I Googled Aaron, not the public stuff, not Instagram or LinkedIn, the hidden stuff, Reddit, private forums, lawsuits. And what I found made me sick. 3 different women in the past 5 years had accused him of emotional manipulation. One claimed he used therapy language to excuse his cheating. Another said he love-bombed her, isolated her, and made her feel like the crazy one every time she confronted him. And one said he kept her locked in a cycle, where he'd break her down just to rescue her later and feel like a hero. My mouth went dry. I remembered all the times he'd made me feel insane for asking basic questions, the way he'd flipped every fight into something I'd caused, the way he looked like the victim in every story he told. And I realized he hadn't just betrayed me, he'd played me. He'd played both of us. I wasn't the only woman he'd hurt. And Marissa? She may have stolen him, but he destroyed her, just like he destroyed me. Suddenly, the rage I'd aimed at her for so long started to blur. What if she really had thought she was saving him? What if he'd told her I was abusive, cold, manipulative? What if she thought taking him was the right thing? It didn't make what she did okay, but it changed the story. She hadn't been the mastermind. She'd been the next fool, the next casualty, the next crazy X in Aaron's revolving door of carefully broken women. I stared at the wall for hours that night, trying to reconcile the truth with the revenge I'd already unleashed. Had I punished the wrong person? Had I become the villain in someone else's story? It's hard to admit, even now, because part of me still hates her, still hears her laughing in my kitchen, pretending to be my sister while plotting her betrayal. But another part of me saw her scream into that empty car, saw the wreckage on her face, and for the first time in this entire twisted, firelit saga, I didn't feel powerful. I felt human, broken, just like her, just like every woman Aaron had touched. After everything I wanted to stop, truly, I did. The war had stretched too long, too deep. I didn't recognize myself anymore, not in the mirror, not in my thoughts, not in the dreams that kept turning to ash by sunrise. So I deleted the burner accounts, all of them. Claire, the fake job offers, the anonymous tip lines. I closed the laptop, I boxed the notebooks, I opened the windows. I really tried to let oxygen back into my life. I started going outside again. Quiet walks, silent mornings. I picked up the pieces of myself like scattered teeth after a brawl, brushing them off, pretending they could fit again. And for a while, it worked. Marissa had gone silent. Aaron too. No more posts, no more leaks, no more whispers, just quiet. But sometimes silence isn't peace. It's a setup, a waiting room for the next blow. And mine came in the form of an email. Subject line, you didn't win. I just got tired of playing pretend. No greeting, no sign-off. Just a long, venomous paragraph. Marissa, she'd found me. The new city, the new name, the new everything. It hadn't been enough. She said she'd known for months, that the fake accounts were obvious, that my bitterness made me predictable, that my fingerprints were all over the destruction I thought I'd so cleverly orchestrated. You wanted to make me regret it, she wrote. But here's the truth, I don't. She said Aaron was a disaster, sure, but it was worth it. That hurting me had felt like justice after all the years I stole the spotlight and played the victim. I read that part 5 times. I'd stolen the spotlight? Me? She talked about high school, college, said I was always the one everyone looked at first. That being my best friend was like living in someone else's shadow, glamorous on the outside, suffocating on the inside. I sat there, stunned. All this time, I thought she took Aaron out of lust, or betrayal, or maybe loneliness. But this was resentment, years of it, decades, not because I'd hurt her, but because I'd shined near her. She ended the email with a line that still loops in my brain like static. You made me feel invisible for years. I just returned the favor. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I felt hollow, familiar. So I wrote back, 1 sentence. You had to burn down my life to feel visible. What does that say about you? No reply. Not for days. But then she reached out again. This time, not online, in person. It started with a cafe invitation. Neutral territory. A local spot halfway between our 2 cities, so precise it made my teeth ache. Like she'd studied my routines. Like she knew I wouldn't say no. And she was right, I didn't. I needed to see her. Not for closure, not even for vengeance. I just needed to look her in the eyes and understand how. This happened. We met on a Wednesday. The air was heavy. That pre-rain wait where everything feels charged. She walked in like she always had, composed, stylish, with a fake softness around the eyes. The kind she wore like armor. We sat. No hug, no greeting, just silence between two. People who used to be sisters. She ordered the cappuccino. I didn't order anything. Finally, she said, "So, here we are." I looked at her and asked, "Was it worth it?" Her lips twitched. Not quite a smile. It was necessary. I blinked. She kept going. "You were always the strong one, Elle. The adored one. People listened when you spoke. They leaned in. Even Aaron. He lit up around you. He married me," I said, "and still talked about you, even when you weren't there." That landed like a slap. She leaned in, whispered, "You were the ghost in our relationship before you knew. We were together." I felt sick, not because of the words, because I knew she believed them. She wasn't trying to hurt me anymore. She was explaining herself, like this was a therapy session, like we were going to walk away feeling healed. "You destroyed everything," I said. "No," she said. "You gave it to me. every secret, every fight, every insecurity. You opened the door, I just walked through it. That broke something in me. Because she was right, I had told her everything. I had leaned on her too much. I had trusted her with all the cracks in my marriage, and she used them like a blueprint. I stood up to leave, but she grabbed my wrist, not hard, just enough to freeze me. "I'm not sorry," she whispered. And that was the twist of the knife, not the affair, not the betrayal, but the fact that she'd looked me in the eyes and said it with pride. Like I was collateral damage in her path to self-actualization, like I deserved it. I pulled my hand away, walked out, didn't look back, and as I stepped into the storm that had finally started, rain washing over my skin, thunder echoing somewhere behind me, I knew this wasn't over. Not because I wanted more revenge, but because she did. She wanted this war. She needed it. Because without me, she had nothing left to define herself by. And that was the real tragedy. Not that she took my husband, not that she took my life, but she thought doing it would finally make her matter. She thought she'd won. She wore white like it meant something, like the ash of what she'd done had never stained her fingers, like the lives she broke were just detours on her journey to this moment. Marissa was getting married to my husband in a vineyard 2 hours from the city, full of pastel linens and curated florals and wine-stained laughter. They didn't bother to hide it anymore. They invited everyone, our mutual friends, her old clients, even people who once loved me and now acted like I was just a tragic footnote in their meet-cute. The invitation had arrived like a slap. Not directly, of course, but one of those accidental forwards you know was meant to burn. "Thought you should see this, in case you want to stay far, far away." I didn't reply. I just stared at the date. October 14th. The same day Aaron had first told me he loved me. Years ago. Back when I thought love was enough. But love, I'd learned, was a hollow word in the mouths of liars. So I didn't cry. I got to work. There are some wars that don't end with confrontation. They end with a final move. Strategic, silent, and irreversible. So I waited, watched, tracked every detail. The venue, the guest list, the social posts leading up to the big day, Marissa gushing about custom vows and healing together, and the most honest love I've ever known. I wanted to laugh, but I didn't. I was too focused. Because if this was her triumph, then her altar would be where I ended it. Not with chaos, with clarity. See, I'd spent the last few months collecting things, screenshots, voicemails, old texts between her and Aaron, ones she thought were long deleted, but had synced to the cloud I still had access to. Every lie, every cruel word about me, every message that proved she hadn't just fallen in love, she'd strategized it, fed it, weaponized my trust to win over a man who was already rotting inside. I compiled it all into a dossier, neatly labeled, PDF, clean, elegant. I wrote a short message to go with it. This isn't about ruining your day. It's about making sure you never rewrite history again. And on the morning of the wedding, I sent it, not to her, to him, to Aaron, to his best man, to her maid of honor, to her new boss, to the company who had just signed a contract with her last week, to her father. Because if she wanted to wear white, she could do it under the full weight of the truth. Then I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I didn't go. I stayed in my apartment, turned off my phone, brewed a cup of tea, and waited. 3 hours later, I turned my phone back on. I had 34 messages. 5 missed calls, and 1 video. It was shaky, shot from the back of the vineyard, guests murmuring, people are shifting, no music playing, just silence, and then movement. The groom walked out, alone, no bride, no procession, just Aaron, standing there, stiff, pale, mumbling to the officiant. Someone whispers, "Is she coming?" The camera pans to a bridesmaid. She's crying, not tears of joy. The video ends before anything else happens. But I knew what that silence meant. She didn't walk down the aisle. Whether she fled or froze or broke completely, I'll never know. And honestly, I don't need to, because I wasn't doing this for a front row seat. I was doing it for the moment after, when she would sit alone in the ruins of her own empire, and realize she hadn't just stolen a man, she'd borrowed a grenade and pulled the pin with both hands. She blocked me that night. From everything. No more burner accounts, no more war, just blackout. Fine by me. I was already gone. Literally. I'd booked a flight the moment I sent the dossier. Somewhere new, warm, quiet, far from the ashes. Because sometimes the truest revenge isn't chaos, it's disappearing. It's letting them watch the fire and wonder if you were ever real to begin with. It's rebuilding a life so far from the one they try to claim that it becomes unrecognizable even to you. I never told anyone what I did. Not really. Not the full scope, not the edges of it. Because revenge is a story you keep to yourself, not for shame, but for power. To know you were never helpless, that you let them think they'd won right up until the final curtain fell. Some nights, I still think about her. Wonder if she ever looks at her reflection and sees me in the corner of her eyes, if she hears my name in silence, if she knows the taste of regret in her throat. But I don't wish her pain. Not anymore. She already lives with it every single day because she got what she wanted and found out it was poison.